Chapter 11. Nikolai. "How far up the mountain do you live?" Miss Tesler asked. We had already been gone an hour and a half. We had stopped at Riley's apartment first, and quickly gotten her things. It would take much longer to get to my cabin. "Far, but almost there," I replied. "I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous about going back," Riley voiced. "I will keep you safe," I assured. Her lips twitched as if she was trying to hide a smile. "Yeah, but you almost died last time you tried to protect me." "Well, I'm also here this time. You two won't be alone or unprotected," Miss Tesler added. We finally came to a stop outside my cabin. There was still a large blood stain on the gravel driveway. We all got out of the car slowly, cautiously. My eyes searched every inch of the tree line I could see. Daytime or not, no threats would get that close to Riley again. We should get inside quickly. Riley hurried us to the door. I unlocked it, and we all piled in. My cabin was one big room and a bathroom, kitchen on one side, bed and TV on the other. It was easy to find my bag and start shoving clothes into. I tossed another smaller black bag to Riley. "For soap, please." I nodded towards the bathroom. I didn't want to be here long. "Okay." She nodded and opened the door. I watched her neatly put all my soaps, shaving cream, and razors into the bag. Miss Tesler grabbed an empty box and began to shove blankets and a pillow into it. "What else do you need?" "These," I replied, grabbing my cell phone and charger off my nightstand. I rarely ever use it, but I took it in case of emergency. We had everything, so I hurried them all out of the cabin and back into the car, keeping my senses on high alert. Whatever that thing was that attacked us, I would find it someday and kill it, so Riley would never have to be afraid again. Colt. It took time, but those of us who had returned had picked rooms and unpacked most of our things. Being stuck in this house was going to be fun and miserable all at the same time. Fun because Mel would be stuck with me indefinitely. Miserable because I wouldn't be able to go to the bar, do anything by myself, or get any fresh air. Even little Fritz looked depressed in his small, temporary cage. He liked small spaces, so I didn't feel bad about not being able to bring his huge bunny condo, but this cage was definitely a downgrade. Poor little guy. "What do you think, buddy?" "Safe," he said to me. "Oh, the joys of being able to communicate with animals. Are the other familiars nice to you?" "Yes. We're all on the same side. Our charges are our only concern. We will work together to keep you safe," Fitz squeaked out. I had learned early on that it wasn't that the animals spoke English to me. It was that, for whatever reason, my brain, with the help of my magical blood, was able to process how animals communicate and turn it into something I could understand. Whether from smell, slight movements, or sounds, I was able to process all of it and turn it into words that only I could hear. I opened his cage and scratched his ear. "I'll be back." I walked back to the living room just as Nikolai, Riley, and Riley's mom returned. There was a visible sigh of relief from our Pathfinder. "There are only 2 rooms left for you guys. The last 2 at the end of the hall," Oliver told them politely. "Thank you," Riley said as she held the front door for Nikolai, who walked in carrying 2 backpacks on each arm and 3 huge boxes stacked so high he couldn't see over them. He was also already easily the tallest one of us, but with the boxes he almost couldn't make it through the door. He was loaded up like a pack mule, and it didn't seem to faze him one bit. I raised an eyebrow at Riley. She had a guilty expression. "He wouldn't let my mom or I carry anything but a bag each. He's really stubborn," she explained. I went over and grabbed the box on top and was surprised by how damn heavy it was. "What do you have in here? Bricks?" I remarked. "Books, actually." Riley's face went red as she answered. "I have some books in that one and some in the other box. All magic-related books, of course." I shook my head and led them down to their rooms. They were directly across from each other. I dropped the box on Riley's bed and turned to Nikolai, who was carefully setting everything down. He kept a hold of 1 box and 2 bags that he tossed into his room but did not attempt to unpack. Instead, he joined Riley and I in her room and began pulling books out of boxes and handing them to her. "You don't have to do that," she exclaimed. "You have to unpack too." Nikolai smiled a big, square-jawed smile. "I'd rather help you." "Oh, okay." She shrugged and turned to me. "Thanks for your help." Then she elbowed Nikolai, who looked at me. "Yes, thank you." He spoke with his thick accent. I nodded and walked out. I was bored and wanted to find Mel and drive her crazy for a while. I loved to see her get agitated. It made my day. It was just too damn cute. The living room was buzzing with noise. Miss Price, Tesler, and my mom were huddled up talking. Mel and Cece's little brother had come over and was sitting on the couch, messing with Rayella's huge wolf. Vincent was trying to sulk in a dark corner, but Rayella was only a few inches from him, whispering softly into his ear. I wasn't sure if she did it on purpose or if she naturally looked like she was being sensual all the damn time. It didn't help that she was always wearing scandalous clothing, those long skirts, belly shirts, and gold bracelets galore. Stereotypical gypsy as seen in movies. Cece herself had come down to greet everyone with the bright, warm smile she always had. The only ones missing aside from Riley and Nikolai were Mel and Oliver. They had better not be off making plans and stalking Noah without me. "Dinner is almost ready, everyone," Mel called to us. "Oliver is a whiz in the kitchen." Vincent. I didn't really want to be around all these people. It was too much for me. I was leaning against the wall, away from them all, Raelle at my side, her soft voice in my ear. It sent a slight shiver up my spine. "Vincent, you know you can't just avoid them. You should get to know everyone," she suggested. Her hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "That doesn't sound like something I would enjoy. Besides, what would I even say to any of them?" I asked her as I tried to slowly pull myself away. However, I couldn't seem to move myself as she gripped my shoulder lightly. Her touch froze me in place. I looked over, meeting her deep green eyes. "You never know unless you try. Besides, we are all like you. We want to achieve the same goal and share a bond, whether you see it or not," she said with a small smile. This sent my heart pounding loud in my ears. Her emerald green orbs on me, not breaking contact. "I wish you would stop that," I said, looking away again. I hated the way she had this hold on me. "Stop what? Whatever do you mean, Vincent?" she asked softly into my ear once again. I shivered. "You know what you're doing," I mumbled, turning away from her. That was when one of the Price sisters, Melissa, returned into the room to announce dinner would be ready soon. Great. Now I'd have to sit surrounded by them. They weren't bad people. I just didn't know them. "Vincent," Melissa called out, grabbing my attention. "Yes?" I asked, looking to her. "We got a box from your father. It's super heavy, so we left it in the hallway for you to take care of," she told me before she disappeared back into the kitchen. My father sent me something? I stepped away from Raella and headed into the hallway. There was the box, sitting up against the left side of the wall. Struggling with it, I took it to my new room and placed it on the bed. My father's cursive font adorning the top. I hesitated to open it. "Go on, open it," that all too seductive voice whispered to me. "Raella." She followed me. I nodded and pulled open the box, looking inside. Within it were some of my favorite clothes and books. A few of my sketch diaries were gently wrapped up with some of my clothes. He had written a small note that he placed at the bottom, along with a small green crystal charm, a protection crystal. I read over the note. It was very short. It told me to be safe and to not let my guard down. He also hoped these were enough. A small smile came to my lips. He tried. "How sweet. See, he does care about you," she said, sitting down gently on the bed. "Yeah, I know he does. I just didn't think he'd go against my mother and sneak me things. He's got some guts," I said with a small chuckle. I looked to Raella, and within her hands was one of my sketchbooks. She was already flipping through it. "Wow, you are talented, as I suspected," she said, looking up to me. I just like to draw," I responded with a slight shrug of my shoulders. "Cece." "Hey guys, food is ready," I said, knocking on Vincent's door softly. It was already open, and I was greeted by Raella's lovely pearly smile. "Of course, we will be right there, thank you," Vincent answered. I nodded and went back to where everyone was piling into our kitchen. Our dining room wasn't big enough for everyone, so we all moved into the living room and sat around the floor together. As I sat down with my food, Raella's big wolf Baron came up behind me and started nudging my head with his nose. I felt slobber drip from his lolling tongue. Then I realized, had anyone fed any of the familiars? Before I could even stand up, I heard Colt calling, "Everyone come eat!" Of course, this confused me. We already had our food. Then, when all the familiars in the room took off into the dining room, I realized what was going on. "They were all hungry," he confirmed, setting down bowls, all with different animal foods in them. "My power makes me able to communicate with the animals, including familiars," he answered. I had followed the animals to the dining room and looked at him with confusion clouding my dark blue eyes. "That's an amazing gift," I praised. "It comes in handy." He smiled and tossed me a napkin. I thanked him and wiped off this wolf slobber that had ran down my arm. "I'm going to take your brother home before it gets dark. Make sure you all stay inside. Close the curtains and don't open any windows. "We already made sure that all the windows and doors are locked," my mother began. "Please be safe, all of you." She came over and gave Mel and myself hugs. Even our little brother hugged us. "Josh, are you going to be okay?" I asked him. He had been very quiet since he had come over. "I saw that thing, Cece. It wanted to hurt you guys. Mom was so scared she was in tears, watching it go around the house. Every time it hit the windows, we thought it was going to get in," he replied quietly. "We had to hold on to Dingo to keep him from leaping from the balcony to try and rescue you." "It couldn't hurt us if it tried, little brother, so don't worry." Mel patted his head, which made him glare up at her. He was 8, but he had recently hit a growth spurt, and he was already almost 4 feet tall. "Mel is right. There is no reason to worry. We are all together now, and we will protect each other." I smiled at him. "Here, just take these." He handed Mel and I small braided string bracelets. Mine was white, purple, and dark blue. Mel's was gray, neon green, and light blue. I made them, and Mom helped me put protection charms on them. "Thank you, Joshy." I gave him another hug after I put the bracelet on. Now Mel and I both had 2 protective bracelets. "Thanks, kiddo." Mel also put hers on. "Wait, where is Oliver?" Josh asked, searching the room. I made him one too. We found Oliver in the living room. "Thanks," Oliver said, even though the bracelet was too small to fit over his big hands. He ruffled Josh's hair with affection. Soon after that, Colt's mom, Riley's mom, and our mother and brother departed. We all finished eating and just sat around the living room. It was quiet. I think we were all just exhausted. "Well, what now?" Riley asked, looking around the room at all of us. "We stay safe and try not to go stir-crazy," I suggested. "And we start seriously practicing magic. We've all dabbled with it because all witches know how to do simple spells and stuff. But we need to really learn as much as we can. Not just protection spells, but defensive spells. We all need to learn how to use our powers to protect others and ourselves. Otherwise, why are we destined?" Mel spoke with determination in her eyes. "We will be the ones to destroy this threat. We will stand up and defend ourselves." Nikolai. We all stayed quiet after listening to Melissa's speech. I could see a fire in her eyes. Everyone else seemed worried, though. We had agreed to train, of course. Starting first thing in the morning, they would all be learning more advanced magic and spells. Mel and Cece had their family's book of shadows. All the spells ever created or learned by their family would be in that book. Raella also had her own book of shadows, and Miss Tesler had given Riley their family's book of shadows. Colt had also been given his family's book. They were all ready. I wasn't exactly sure what I should do. Just keep doing my regular training, I suppose. Strength and cardio workouts. I would never let anything hurt Riley again. I glanced over at Oliver, who was sitting by Cece. He was also magicless. He looked large and strong. Not as large or strong as myself, but we could still help each other train. What else would he have to learn? The other men definitely needed my help. Vincent and Colt, I would have to show them a thing or two. They were both tall and lanky. They had some muscle, but they would need to be stronger if they expected to protect the ones they cared about. I suppose it would be my mission to physically train all of them, since I had no way to help with the magic training. That worked well for me. I enjoyed helping people improve themselves. "We should try getting sleep," Cece suggested softly, a slight frown on her lips. "I agree. We all need to be ready to learn tomorrow," Riley added, standing. I followed her lead as we all said our goodnights, put our dishes in the dishwasher, and departed from the cramped living room. "I've decided. Since I have no magic, I will train our bodies," I informed Riley as we got to her room. "Wait, what about bodies?" Her cheeks turned red, and there was confusion on her face. "Training, like running and weights, body training," I tried to explain. English was a very difficult language to learn, but I had been practicing for a long time. I was aware that I could be difficult to understand, but I felt like out of everyone, she could understand me the best. "Oh, like working out. So that we are not only training our minds and learning new magic, but we're also getting physically stronger. That makes sense for you to do. I wouldn't mind working out with you. I bet some of the others would benefit from that too," she rambled, still blushing. Riley stepped through her door, flipping the lights on. I watched Raella and Vincent come down the hall after us. Both of them went into Vincent's room and shut the door. The hallway was empty now, so I leisurely leaned against Riley's door and watched her. The truth was that I wasn't a bit tired, and I just wanted to spend more time with her. She shuffled around the room, glancing at me every few moments and blushing. She was rearranging things and gathering some clothing into her arms. "Well, it's time for bed," she smiled, a lovely smile, her amazing olive green eyes lighting up. I nodded in agreement and yanked my shirt off. Riley gasped, the blush from her cheeks spreading across her whole face. Her hand immediately slammed over her eyes with a very painful sound. "What are you doing?" she squeaked the question. "Getting ready for bed," I replied, pulling off my jeans. Who could sleep in a shirt and jeans? That would just be uncomfortable. Boxers were all that was needed for a comfortable night's sleep. "Why are you covering your eyes?" I asked her. "Because you're undressing in my room." She split 2 fingers and peeked at me, squealed and closed her fingers. "Don't you wear pants to bed?" "Only boxers," I answered, still confused by her reaction. I closed the space between us, holding my shirt and jeans in one hand. With the other hand I pulled her fingers away from her face. She kept her eyes tightly shut. I brushed some of her black hair from her face and bent down, pressing my lips softly to her forehead for only a second. When I pulled back, her big olive green eyes were staring back at me in shock. "Good night, Krushka."